see if someone wants to chat. Okay, hi everyone. I hope you are well. Um, Let me just put up my slides for you so you guys can see. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen me before. This is me. Hello everyone on this cold Tuesday evening, I could say. I hope you're all ready for a productive accounting session. So just a little bit more about me. My name is Shantay. I am going to be your grade 12 accounting tutor or teacher this session. I'm extremely passionate about my subject. I teach it at school. I teach grade 12s, 11, 10s, and EMS to 9s, where I try and get them to love accounting as much as I do. Um, and I hope to facilitate a session where I want you to do as much examples and questions as you possibly can. So what I want to do in my class is I want to facilitate something that you guys can literally screenshot, take notes from, that you can just go and read through that and go and study it. Okay, so to me it's very important that you basically you study you study these slides and these things I give you, and then just go and do as much questions and examples as you possibly can, because I feel like if you don't know your theory, you will not succeed in accounting. It's so needed for you to know. And I don't know, I know you guys now, when you reach grade 12, you see that accounting becomes more about applying your knowledge. I want to see, do you understand what you are reading? Do you understand the type of business? Do you understand what it is I'm asking of you, what you guys are actually working out from grade 10? You guys know how to work out ratios, interpret it, analyze it. But the key to me in grade 12 lies where can you interpret it correctly? That's super important. Okay, do you actually know what this ratio means in the business? Can you sit with the CEO and CFO and explain to them this is the reason and this is the impact, this is the effects? So that's why I'm here, to maybe help you just broaden your understanding about the concept. Okay, um, so what we'll be doing up until Tuesday, well, today's Tuesday, up until Thursday, is we'll do inventory, we'll continue with fixed assets, and then internal control, as well as ethics. Okay, so I just want to add ethics as well. So my plan is to look at perpetual and periodic inventory systems today, look at some internal controls. Then we had a bit of a problem on Friday where it just cut me out. So I'm just going to complete that question for fixed assets. Then we're going to move over to our internal controls for inventory as well as fixed assets, because you will most definitely get a question like that. We've already looked at a fixed asset question. So if you've just joined, please go have a look on our YouTube channel. I did a example for fixed assets where I did a general ledger fixed asset question. Then I showed you how it looks in the general journal. And then I also showed you how it looks in the notes and how everything combined, how everything in the whole picture is combined. Okay, so that's important. Today then I will then move over to inventory, and we've already discussed the first in first out method as well as the weighted average method. If you've missed that session, just go back, go review it. That is excellent notes. So I had one of my grade 12 students today where she struggled with the first in first out method. We went back to the example that I gave you and I gave them, and she understood what is happening. So therefore you just stick to your basics and you move forward from there. So go and have a look there. And then today I'll introduce to you a summary of the perpetual and the periodic inventory system. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing. Then tomorrow we'll do a question for the periodic and perpetual inventory system. And if we have time, we'll do a first in, first out or weighted average question. So you can actually see how everything fits in. We did an example, but maybe a question would also be essential. Then we'll move over, if that continues through to Thursday, we'll just move our ethics and our internal controls regarding the audits to Monday. Okay, so otherwise we'll do that on Thursday, but if we don't have time, we'll just move our ethics and auditing. It's just, what is an external audit to do? What is the internal audit to do? What is the functions of each? That's what we're going to look at as well. But we'll continue on with that on Thursday or on Monday. It depends on our time. Okay. So for those of you who've just joined, you are very, very welcome. Um, I love my class. A pacer for my class. Am I moving too fast? Am I moving too slow? So please, please, please make sure that you ask any questions, ask away. I am more than happy to help and assist. Okay, just some information. We've now moved from Zoom to Microsoft Teams. Now we're back on Zoom. I, for one, am very, very happy about this. I'm happy that we've moved over back to Zoom. So you can get all the information you need at www.africateengeeks.co.za, or if you have any questions, just follow us on social media and then we can help you. Okay, let's start with our question. What do I have in store for you? Okay, you can see this that we stopped at on Friday, that you guys can see this 3 vehicles. Let me just see. Okay. Right. Us for now. Okay. So, yes, on Friday, what we did, and I'll just quickly give a recap for those of you who have just joined. Please go watch the video. I explain every 6 ASIC topic. Is it something different? Now, you guys know level 4. Okay, let me just put all my. Just some quick adjustments. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so basically, I said there, you guys know in maths you get a level 4 question. So it's something I will, as a teacher, throw in so that you sure, okay, can this student interpret what I want? Can they use their logical thinking together with all of their knowledge of accounting and apply it? Okay, so here I asked the students, okay, so I want you to calculate which which vehicle should I rather dispose of, okay? And then I said here, which one of these three vehicles should be, then they gave you the courier charges earned, so the income. So these trucks all go and they get an income from obviously transporting things. So, and then this is the repair and maintenance expense, and then this is the fuel and oil expense. Okay, so that's what we said. Now, everyone freaked out when I gave them this question because they said, "Ma'am, what am I supposed to do? I've never seen such a thing." And my answer is always stay calm, read. You'll keep on hearing me say this, but my tax lecturer always said to me when I went and studied BCom accounting, that you need to was for a specific reason. So I need you to make sure that you read carefully what I'm saying. I entered this for a specific reason to give the kids a hint to say, students, have a look. How would you do that? You would do it as, for example, say, percentage earnings spent on fuel and repair. So what did I do? I put my repairs and maintenance and my fuel expense on top of my earnings, and I got a percentage to say 28% of my income is going to my expenses, if that makes sense. So if 1 rand was an income, then 28 cents of those 1 rand is going to pay expenses. Does that make sense? So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the highest percentage. Why? Because that means that there's more earnings, more income spent on fuel and repairs. Does that make sense? So then we made a calculation for each and we saw, okay, B is the highest. Okay, can you guys as students interpret what this percentage means? Because everyone can get a percentage, but what does it mean? So therefore you should say, this means that truck B should be traded in because its maintenance cost is too high. Can you see that he pays more of he's spending more of his earnings on truck B's expenses. Then he gave you a second question, and I said, should management consider the purchase of a new vehicle? Okay, keyword new vehicle. You should know trigger. I'm talking about in accounting, there's trigger words, okay? When you read credit sale, that's credit is a trigger word to say, okay, if it's credit, then obviously it says on credit debtors, all of those things, or on creditors, all of those things. Okay, so here my trigger is a new vehicle. Now, with all the rush and uncertainty in an exam, you maybe misread this or you don't know where is this new vehicle going to come into play? Do I have to now work out depreciation? What does it mean? Basically, new vehicle triggers new vehicle. I hope that makes sense. So if you say, a new vehicle is advertised in February 2016 at 630,000 Rand. The new vehicle comes with a vehicle maintenance for 3 years at an extra cost of 50,000 Rand. It has 5.6% savings on fuel consumption, and the business wishes to purchase the new vehicle on 1 March 2016. So let's go to the question. It says, with calculations, discuss the following. Should management consider the purchase of a new vehicle? Provide examples for your answer by quoting figures or showing calculations. Mention 2 points. Okay, now we're freaking out. Now we don't know what to say. What do they mean? Just go to the top. What have I been working out? I saw, okay, vehicle B spends a lot of money on its fuel and its repairs, like its maintenance. So, what is my first thing to say? Listen, we have a maintenance plan for 3 years at an extra cost of 50,000 Rand. So, can you see that you can say, mentioning a point, maintenance plan means no repairs or maintenance costs for 3 years? When I have a maintenance plan on my car, all that means is whenever it's due for a service, I go and I give it to the garage. They write it in that little bookie, and then they say thank you, ma'am, and then I go the next day or the day or the evening after work. No charge. When I don't have a maintenance plan, then or I need to take it for a maintenance service, right? What happens now? I have to go to the garage. The garage gives me a quote, say, okay, this is the amount of money it's going to cost you, and I need to pay it. So that is a benefit. If I do purchase this new vehicle, what is the benefit? I have no repairs or maintenance expense for the next 3 years, because I'm just paying an additional cost of 50,000 Rand. I'm going to capitalize it. Okay, capitalize mean adding it to the price. Okay, capitalize meaning adding it to the price. Okay, to make use of the asset. So that is that was a mark. A new vehicle means less fuel consumption, could I also say. Why? Because it says that it has a fuel consumption saving of 5.6%. So can you see that although they don't give me a certain figure to say within the next 3 months you're going to save this, I want you to see that there's a reason why I'm giving you that 5.6%. Again, a trigger to say, I need to do something with this. What I also want you to see is, can you see that this whole question had to do with maintenance plans, fuel savings? All of these things had to do with that. So when they ask you certain things like indicate what internal control measures should be put into place for future in order to maintain proper maintenance of vehicles, you can mention any two. Now we're going to go on to our next section where we're just doing internal controls of inventory and fixed assets. But what I need you to understand is try and keep it in the same ballpark. Do you understand? Try and keep it there. So if I've referred to maintenance and fuel, have a look at, okay, mention any two. Just mention any two you could possibly think of and that we're going to discuss now. But make sure that the other two you mention, you kind of mentioned the same thing what this question was all about. This question was analyzing the fuel, analyzing the repairs and maintenance. So I need you to make sure that you are analyzing that as well. Okay, so let's look at the answer. Here we could say vehicles must be serviced on a regular basis. Why? Because if I do service it on a regular basis, I might not incur such a big repairs and maintenance expense. If I don't, it's like going to the dentist. If you do not go to the dentist on a yearly or regular basis, then you end up going once every second or third year, and you have 3 or 4 cavities and then it's a big expense and a big pain, right? Otherwise, if you just went once a year or on a regular basis, she would have fixed one cavity, the other cavity, and the other cavity, okay, over a period of 3 years, instead of fixing all three in a 1 year. Can you see that that makes for proper planning, proper putting everything into budget? Making sure that the cars are regularly serviced so that the expense isn't so much and so high. Okay. Um, then we say kilometers traveled and fuel consumed must be monitored. So is this person on our business expense driving around, fetching his kid, um, making extra roundabouts in in some place? Is he doing that or no? Okay, so is he going through a drive-through at McDonald's, or is he going directly business to the um, place that he needs to go, business place that he needs to go. Okay, or is he taking roundabout routes? You could also say, is he taking the most um, the best fuel consumed route? You know, is he going to stay in traffic, or should he rather take the longer route and get stuck less in traffic so that his fuel consumption is better? Just think about certain things like that. The best advice I can give you is, and that's what I'm thinking about now while I'm talking and I'm stumbling over my words, to just say, guys, look at what you are saying and make sense of it. So you can write anything you want as long as it's relevant and as long as you can explain yourself. So you can't just say, make sure he travels effectively, make sure his fuel consumption is monitored. Yes, you can say that because I said it now, but this is my keywords I'm looking for. I want you to expand your answer. Tell me why. Because if you don't provide me with this too, I'll read your answer. And if I feel it's not sufficient, you know what? I'm not going to mark it. I will mark it as a teacher. I will mark it. But there are some teachers at the end of the year, when marking the year-end exam, that you mark 1,000 question papers. You do not have time, and you're pressured for time. You do not have time to read through endless sentences and vague things and people repeating themselves. I want to the point, but explain. Okay, make sure that you explain what you are saying. Okay, so now that we've done that, is there any questions? You guys are very quiet. My other class is so interactive. Are you okay? Just give me an indication. Okay, it seems like that. Ooh. Ah, yes, thank you so much. Is it Jadida and Pooms? Am I saying it correctly? I love Zoom because I can build a relationship with you guys and greet you every day. So I hope to see you every day. Okay, so I'm glad you understand. So I hope this helped. And then this is also going to be on YouTube. But what I want to quickly do is I want to, let me just zoom in a bit. What I went onto the internet, and these things are the things you don't get in your, you don't usually get in your books, right? So thank you, Kev. Okay, so what I did is I added the the link here, so you guys can go, and I'm not copying anyone else's work and calling it my own, so I'm not guilty. I'm just showing you this is a great example that I've given that I got over the internet. So I've given this to my students as well. This isn't to do well in my question paper. So what I do when I teach my students, I don't give them all the information just to pass my paper or to get a distinction on my paper. This is all the tools to do well at the end of the year, to make sure that by the end of the year, when you write your year-end exam, you are a well-rounded accounting student. Everything fits in with each other. I want you to make sure that you can analyze, interpret what you are doing, understanding. Okay, so because when you do understand, the business, when you do understand what it's about, it's so easy to fix things, to say this is an internal control, this is a defect, where can they improve? Okay, what is the advantages, what is the disadvantages, um what is the state of this business? Is it a good business? Is it a going concern? Is it not? Okay, so all of those things are important. So let's quickly look at controls. Now, you will most definitely, whether it's in your June exams or an assessment or assignment, however your teachers will assess you, you will most definitely get something like this. What is the controls you can put into place, like we saw here with our in our fixed asset example. So now what I want you to think of is literally go through the normal process of thinking of how do I acquire um, a asset, how do I work out its depreciation, how do I depreciate it, the method, how do I dispose of it, when I have it, how do I recognize it, where do I keep track of it, where do I keep record of it. Okay, so maybe take a screenshot, take a photo of this, but let's quickly run through it. We're putting some acquisition controls into place. It says you can use an annual capital budgeting process to approve purchases, okay? Make sure there's appropriate funding. Make it harder for sudden asset purchases to be approved since they might otherwise sidestep purchasing controls. So make sure you have a acquisition note. When you go on in accounting, we talk a lot, in auditing we talk a lot about, was there proper authorization for this? Okay, so this is important. um, Capital request form, you can call it any form. I'm going to just see, so if I asked you about a acquisition. So we obviously, you are matric, you will be getting a fixed asset that was sold and purchased during the year, and your old assets that you need to um, calculate its depreciation. So those three things you will most definitely get all in the same category. What do I mean by that? You will most definitely get one vehicle that's being disposed of, one new vehicle that's being purchased, and your depreciation that you also need to account for both these two I just mentioned, as well as all the old vehicles. Okay, so maybe I can now ask you, the second thing is, what internal controls can I put into place for the acquisition? Now, these are things you could mention. Okay, um, discount rate, no, not so important in matric. Lockdown access to the fixed asset master file. You can also just mention the fixed asset register. You guys work specifically with a fixed asset register, so I would most probably rather refer to that than a master file. Master file is more when we go onto the computer. I think accounting is going more and more to the computer, to the IT, to the how can I say, technology based, where with this, so a master file is just referring to a computer master file where you have one file, you update that. um so that's what it means. But we on school level, we still working with a fixed asset register, so please just make sure that you refer to that rather. um so that no one can make adjustments to hide asset theft. So that's something you can mention. Instead of saying master file, say the fixed asset register, and say make sure that there's limited access to this. Make sure that this is regularly recorded, all the acquisitions is regularly recorded. Then think of the fixed asset register right in front of you. What do we have? I don't know if you've guys seen a fixed asset register. I've audited it many times, and it's actually cool to see. You study all of these things and then you go into the auditing world, and it's true. You have your description. So I have my computer with my serial number. You can't just write computer, because let's say PwC, all of them get this certain, let's say an ACER, they all get ACERs. So I can't just say, okay, I've acquired 1,000, no, I haven't acquired let's say 800, yeah, 800 new computers. I have to say, this is the computer that I bought. This is the serial number 800 times. Okay, then I have to say the date that I purchased it. I have to say the depreciation method, um, and then obviously the depreciation as well as the cost price, and then the total. Okay, so that's what I have to say. So have a think about that. So here they say review all changes. Make sure that your there has to be one guy reviewing it, making sure that all of these things are properly authorized. And then create ID tags for all assets and log them so that each asset can be tracked over time. Okay, this can work if you have different vehicles, for instance, or if you have moving things. where with if it's like, yeah, like vehicles, that's the only thing I can think of now, where with it, if whether it's like if it's a computer or if it's a printer, they usually have a serial number. So then you can just use that serial number, okay? Most big machinery also have serial numbers, so that's not a problem. Okay, assign a responsibility to all fixed assets to employees. You can also mention that. That's a weak point. Um, I won't go there. Use a formal transfer document to shift responsibility to a different manager. Okay, let's go on to our next step, security controls. In accounting on grade 12 level, I think security controls is a good thing to mention. Okay, so it's a good thing to mention here because this is also very likely to be asked. This is something that you can easily get marks for. So we can say restrict access to fixed assets such as the admin area, or reduce risk of theft. So anything that can be stolen, remember this is an asset. So if I do lose it, it's going to be I'm going to incur loss. So make sure it's kept safe, it's not damaged. If it's a car, if it's garage, like if it's cars, make sure it's under garage, that it doesn't get too much damage. For instance, okay. And then let's look at the disposal controls. Review whether any assets on the premises are no longer needed and can be sold. Now, this is something that maybe you obviously going to get an asset that's being disposed of. Now, maybe I can say, listen, what is the internal controls I can put into place to make sure that that all my assets that I've disposed of has been disposed of in my books as well. So for completeness purposes, is everything that's not physically on the floor or in my business is also no longer physically in my fixed asset register. So the internal controls you can put into place there is to say, review whether any assets on the premises no longer needed can be sold. Require a disposition form for all fixed assets disposed. So again, proper authorization. You can just refer to proper authorization, okay? Make sure that the cash received from a fixed asset sale matches the sale document, okay? So these are all audit procedures that I, as the auditor, if I do audit fixed assets, I would go and make sure, was this asset really disposed of? Was there a sale document? You can mention that, but it's more moving to audit when you actually go and study accounting than physically accounting. But this is to open up and broaden your knowledge to say, think of these internal controls differently. But most importantly, think of it logically. Okay. This is super, super easy marks, and make sure you apply the question to your internal controls. Okay. Because I want to see, do you understand the business? Can you identify the key things I've mentioned to key internal control procedures you can put into place? Okay, now let's move over. We can somewhere close that. Okay, let's move over to our inventory controls. Again, I used accounting tools. I had a look at our article. Now, you will most definitely get this question as well, whether it's again in an assessment, in an assignment, in the year-end exam. Okay, inventory systems, there's not a lot to test in the sense where what can I test? I can test your first in, first out knowledge, or I will be testing your weighted average method. Okay, I can also test both and say, identify the key differences. Okay, I want you guys to then please go to my YouTube video of inventory and just go have a look at that example I put up. It's an excellent summary. I would also screenshot that, take a photo, make notes from there. That is excellent notes to study from. You really can understand the example and see what is the difference between the two. Okay, so it says a company's investment in inventory is usually a large one. So this is if I am a company that actually sells stuff. If this is a service business, then you will most definitely not get an inventory question. Okay, so just think of the type of business. Also, when you do get a internal control question, have a look, is the inventory that I can refer to? Okay, but I'll be very specific. And it may be comprised of many merchandise items. So just think of macro or game. I mean, they have a huge amount of different types of merchandise that can be readily stolen and resold. If the inventory controls mostly raw materials, keeping track of it is essential for ensuring the production. And let me just zoom in a bit for you guys. Ooh, okay, there. Let's say I was 90. There we go. Okay, production processes using it will not run short of material. This means that you need to implement some controls, either to prevent theft or to ensure that manufacturing operations does not run short of inputs. We will describe below a number of key controls to consider for your inventory investment. The following key controls are internal controls you can implement when we refer to inventory. Okay, first things first. Remember what I said with fixed assets. Guys, fence and lock the warehouse. So if I give you something where I say there is a warehouse, you can physically also say, not just the warehouse, if it's a store I'm referring to, I want you to make sure that you physically lock the store or lock the storeroom. I want you to just refer to the safekeeping of inventory, okay? So then I want you to also say organize the inventory, okay? If you can simply organize the inventory in the warehouse, you can easily find and control it, okay? You can count all the inventory income inventory, so there has to be a way of controlling what comes in, the new things that I bought, is there perfect record keeping of that. Tag all inventory, so of have a form of doing this. Okay, have a form of making sure you know. That's why there's barcodes. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you maybe you knew that, but you haven't thought about that. But that's why every business barcodes that. Instead of putting a little sticker on every inventory, they just put a barcode with a certain specific serial number or a barcode number, so that they can identify it, to say when you buy it and you scan it and you take it out, that physically registers on the system. I've never actually thought about it until someone mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So tagging all your inventory. Obviously there's no barcode on a vehicle. If I own a garage and I sell vehicles, but then have a system where you can tag inventory appropriately. And mentioning it like that would be perfectly fine. Making sure you make reference to when tagging the inventory, you have to make sure that you make sure that the part number is put onto the tag, the description, the unit of measures, the quantity. I remember when I went to count peanuts at the end of last year for an audit. I actually, so I'm a teacher, but I do audit part-time, and um, I had to count peanuts. Now there's those big bags and they had their name, and then you have different types of, is it shelled or deshelled, or is it split or not split, and the number of it on it. So there they had to tag it to show me, in these bags, these are the following. Okay, so think logically, think of a peanut factory, think of a car manufacturer, of just a garage selling cars. Okay, and then segregating of um, customer owned inventory is also a very good internal control to mention. And I think you might get something of the COVID-19. You will most definitely get something about that, asked something about that, to say, let's take for instance Woolworths. Now I don't know who of you who bought at Woolworths during this lockdown period. Maybe you guys did, maybe your parents did, maybe someone you know did. But what I bought something at Woolworths. So what happened is I had to pay for it, but I haven't received it yet. So it seems as if I'm going to only receive it after we've gone to level 3 now, which is fine. But that means that obviously somewhere in the storeroom is my goods that I actually physically paid for. So I'm hoping they are putting this internal control into place where someone is separating what I bought with all of the rest. Because can you see, if four of the same people bought the same hoodie as I did, we are having a problem because they only have one. Do you understand? So that's where you have to make sure that you separate what the customer has already paid for, but not yet, you've not yet delivered, or that they haven't yet collected, from what you actually physically have on hand. Because it's very easy, you can very easily then actually sell what someone has already bought, and that will be problematic in a business, because now you aren't providing them with the service or the product that you promised. Okay, you can also say segregation of duties. Okay, is there someone with inventory control? If we think of inventory control, is there someone accepting the goods at the warehouse, and someone then taking it and making sure that what was accepted was also ordered and recorded? Okay, so just some things, those things I wanted to mention you to broaden your perspective on when I am faced with this. I know it's overwhelming. I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm wanting to introduce these factors to you, so that when you get to a question, that you don't panic. Because I feel like this is where you guys can get marks in question papers. This is the easy marks. This is the marks where I don't really have an answer, where I can write on the memo any applicable answer. But what I do want is, I want you to apply your knowledge of the business that you guys are getting in the question. Apply what is the problems, identify it, and then explain yourself. Explain why this is an internal control that you need to put in place, or you feel that the business will operate more effectively. Okay, so these were all just examples, and I hope they were helpful. We obviously didn't get to our perpetual and periodic inventory system, but we will do that tomorrow then. This is basically then just a summary. Can you see these summaries I want to provide you with? These are summaries you can just go and study before you actually do questions, to show you what's the difference, how the different account looks, so you guys can see the difference, and then there's no need to make additional summaries. So that's what I wanted to discuss with you today. Is there any questions? Let's see, is there any questions? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. Did you find this helpful? Is there something you want me to stop at, to redo, to do more of? Do you feel comfortable with inventory, or would you like me to do a first in, first out method, a weighted average method question? Would you like me to go through the perpetual and periodic system, so that you are comfortable with that? Just give me an indication. Kev, I am more than happy to provide these notes for you. I'm not quite sure where you can get them. I will, however, follow up, and then I hope to meet you here again tomorrow, same place, same time, and then I will follow up with management where you guys can get that. Otherwise, I can just email that to you if it's even allowed. But let me get back to you. I'll talk to management, and then I'll get back to you. Okay. So you'll get an answer from me tomorrow. I hope to see you tomorrow. Okay, great. If there's no other questions, then that concludes our session for today. Um, Tomorrow we'll do inventory systems again. I know you've done all of these things numerous times, but these are where you guys can physically get your marks. Okay, this is where you can make sure to get your marks so that you do well in your exams. Because next up, after we've done inventory, fixed assets, and ethics and internal controls, as well as internal auditing functions, we are going over to recons, which everyone always struggles with, and then we're doing VAT. So that's the things you guys are going to be assessed on this term. And if you can score your marks with fixed assets and this inventory, I think you guys are okay. I think it's going to be, you guys are going to do much better, because recons and VAT usually brings your mark down. Okay. That concludes our session. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you tomorrow. And Kev, I'll have an answer for you tomorrow.